Welcome back, everybody, to This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I'm your host, Perry. I am all alone this week. I am by myself. Eric's in Disney World. I'm live on Twitch right now recording episode 322. Thank you so much to those of you who watched live, but also you can check out the video version if you're an audio-only listener by heading to youtube.com/mybourbonpodcast. Nope, it's / This Is My Bourbon Podcast. And check out the video version as well. But I probably won't do too many like Twitch afternoon recordings when we do the podcasts. Just kind of from time to time. Not that I'm opposed to it. I don't know. Y'all let me know if you want to see us do more Twitch recordings, more Twitch streaming in general. I mean, I would like to. I would like to get to where we're more integrated across different platforms. But if you want to integrate yourself into supporting the show, you can do so by heading to patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. For as little as $1 a month, you can support the show. For as little as $5 a month, there is bonus content over there. That is including, but is not limited to, a bonus episode that comes out every Monday, the pregame chats, which come out before every episode, and then the uncut version of the podcast, which comes out every Tuesday, before it gets all edited nice and pretty for the main people. You can check all that out. But yeah, this is kind of a little taste of what the uncut recordings are like, I suppose. Maybe we'll do these every once in a while on Twitch, just to remind people that they can get this kind of thing every single week. Every single week. If you're watching the video version as well, you realize my hair looks different. That's right. It does look different. It's shorter. It's because I trimmed it a little bit to try to get it growing in a better direction. Things were uneven, and I was not thrilled by the quality of it. Now, we normally kick off episodes with Flying Blind or Sips and Snacks. Sips and Snacks is a pairing segment. Flying Blind is I drink something blind. I don't have anything blind right now, so I figured I would do something a little bit different. I would reach into a big bag of snacks that old Don Nishida gave me a little while ago, that I have never really taken the time to dig into. Aside for a couple of these, there's this one. I just opened these yesterday. They're called Honey Twist Snack. Sweet and delicious. I don't know what the language is on this. It might be Korean. I don't know. I don't know how things work, but I cracked these open, and they are in fact sweet and delicious. He also gave me these milk tea cakes. This one I think is in Japanese, and I don't know anything else about it. So maybe we'll do a live pairing of these. They come in these nice little individually wrapped containers. They kind of look like a moon pie. They're an interesting appearance. They smell like soap. So far as I can tell. I don't know if I have a whole lot of soap flavored bourbon or soap adjacent bourbons. But all right, well, let's see. Ew. Oh, it tastes like soap too. Don, what did you give me? Ew. Don, that's disgusting. That's not even a little bit good. Oh, some did get in my beard, though. That's nice. Let's find something else. Oh, you know what? That's what we're going to try. Hershey's Chocolate Marshmallow Tart. I don't know if these are still good. I don't know if they ever were. But it is completely crushed and decimated. So that's great. Ooh, that is a really interesting crust. Whiskey Mutant leaves and I still do Whiskey Mutant things. What are the odds? Okay. That's delicious. I mean, it's basically a s'more, but in tart form. What would I pair with this? You know what? I want to see if this works. I'm curious because there's something in my head that's saying Four Roses Small Batch Select would be the right move here. So I'll take a little bite. Take a little drink. Okay. That's not bad. Where it's pretty much just a 3-ingredient treat. Adding the Four Roses to it. That turns it into almost like a cinnamon cake. I mean, it very much goes towards... It goes more towards like a snickerdoodle. And of course, I have to do the pour over, or I would be in trouble. Oh, yeah. Turns it into a snickerdoodle s'more. Oh, I'm going to have to get more of those. That was good. Once again, Hershey's chocolate marshmallow tart. Get you some. Try the pairing. Let us know what you think. I'm also going to let you know now what I've been drinking recently. Well, last night on my normal Tim Bip live stream, reviewed a couple of whiskeys. The Bernheim Barrel Proof Kentucky Straight Wheat Whiskey, which was interesting. And the Heaven Hill Heritage Collection 2024 release, 120 proof at 18 years old. I'm gonna reserve some of my comments on them until I've either tried them again or you've gone and watched the episode, which you can find on YouTube. I don't know if it's still on Twitch. Yeah, it should still be on Twitch too. But they were different. It was not quite what I was anticipating coming from Heaven Hill. But yeah, I also managed to snag a couple older, not really older, but not current releases of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof as well. Found a guy who was selling B523 and A122 along with a C923. So I had snagged all three of those up for a tidy little sum, I suppose. It really was a good deal. And I'm not usually the person to say, well, that's a good deal, I should buy it. But it was a good deal and I wanted to buy it. So I'm not, no buyer's remorse, I suppose. No buyer's remorse. But otherwise, I can actually look at like all my stuff since I'm recording from home. A little more mead. I picked up another bottle of this Dansmjord, Ribamjord the other day. Absolutely fantastic. I talked about it on last week's episode. Nordic honey apple wine with hops and Miraca Gale added. 19% ABV. So it's like drinking a strong beer that's also kind of sweet. So if that's not your thing, I'm sorry, but drink mead, man. Mead is so good. It's so different, and it's such a nice shift away from bourbon too. Like when I need something different, I look for mead, and I'm gonna talk about two because we had initially this week I had planned to have two special guests on this week's episode, but unfortunately they both bailed. It was supposed to be Chad from It's Bourbon Night and Chad My Daily Bourbon. They both left me. I was not happy about it. But it's okay. I mean, I'm perfectly happy hanging out and doing this, but I had planned content that we were gonna do with us, and Chad Perkins dropped out first. And I was like, well, I got stuff I can do with My Daily Bourbon, and then he dropped out, and then I was like, well, I'll figure something out. And so I went on our Discord, which you can get access to through the Patreon, and I said, hey, what do you guys want me to talk about? What do you want me to cover? And there were some suggestions in there as well. So thank you to everybody who suggested some topics to discuss, and we'll get into those here in just a bit. But what I was initially getting at was the type of glassware that I use when I drink mead, and it's technically a wine, right? It's a honey wine. And so I have some bourbon glasses that are a little bit more wine-esque. They've got more of a shape to them that would seem to imply that they would be more geared towards drinking a spirit or something that's been fermented, that typically has a broader bouquet of flavor and aroma. And so I don't remember exactly what they're called, but I've had it before out of the it's like the official tasting glass of the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. If anybody who's on Twitch knows what those are called, please let me know. And Twitch chat, feel free to interact as well too. I don't want to. Y'all can drive the show just as much as I can this week. But anyway, I'll drink mead out of this glass that I've been holding up as well on screen, which I also don't. It's kind of a snifter looking glass, but it's more tulip shaped, I would say. This is really nice to drink mead out of as well, but you can go just for like you could go for just a wine glass, a goblet, whatever. There's so many different ways that you can drink mead. Totally Weeds on Twitch says Libby 9196 signature Kentucky Bourbon Trail whiskey tasting glass. But if it's the round, if it looks like a large Glencairn as far as like girth goes, then that's what I'm thinking of. So yes, that one. There we go. See? Synergy, people. But Tully Weeds was asking, that was you, Tully Weeds, right? About favorite glass type. And yes, it was you. Okay, there we go. And I pulled 5 that were that were available in my closet at the time, but were not. I mean, I have other ones that were around, but they were not clean. I suppose. But these are 5 glasses that I typically will go to if I'm looking to not just drink bourbon, but to experience it a little bit more. So I want to get to that before too long. I also had a request from Mr. Whiskey Ring Podcast himself, David Levine. He wanted me to talk about and look at the founder of Compass Box leaving the company, John Glazer, which is crazy. This is from Whiskey Advocate. John Glazer, a key figure in whiskey's modern transformation as the founder of Compass Box, has stepped down from his leadership role at the company. Glazer retains an ownership stake, but will relinquish all day-to-day activities, effectively parting ways. Calum Capital took a majority stake in Compass Box in 2022, and since then tapped spirits industry veteran Maurice Doyle to serve as the CEO, while Glazer continued in a guidance role. The company has also since made other regional appointments as it begins this new organizational chapter. The financial details of Calum's 2022 deal for Compass Box weren't disclosed, but Calum's strategy calls for making equity investments between $50 and $200 million. Glazer had been with the company. I mean, he founded it. So 23 years of making blended scotch. So yes, this is not bourbon, of course, but this is in the whiskey world still, and I'm amazed that we are seeing more and more of these industry giants who have been so immersed in whiskey making, and they have really shaped what it means to be a whiskey maker today, kind of flirting with, or, you know, accepting the idea of moving on from actually making whiskey. It's crazy. And I think that, you know, the more that whiskey becomes corporatized, and the more that whiskey becomes conglomerated, which is, I don't think either of those are actual words. I think the more that we start to see alienation from the aspects of whiskey that made people fall in love with it in the first place. And that's people that you can put a name to a face with. It's years and years of whiskey making experience and devotion to the craft, and the idea that it's more than just a hobby for a lot of people. And I mean, we wouldn't have anything close to the communities or the ability to even do something like this, a podcast about bourbon, about whiskey, without the commitment to excellence that people like John Glazer have had. And, you know, I'm not a common Scotch drinker, but I do enjoy it when the feeling hits, when I really feel like I would like to get into something different from bourbon. So I still feel this impact, and I have always enjoyed Compass Box the few times that I've been able to try it. I mean, it's not lost on me that this is a major shift in the international whiskey making scene, and going back to speaking on the people who are leaving whiskey. It of course reminds me of the mass exodus of YouTube and content creators that we've seen. It's like once a couple do it, then others kind of realize, oh, I can do that too. Like, I don't have to be, I don't have to be chained to this life, to these processes that I have resigned, maybe not always resigned myself to, but, feel like you have an obligation to day in and day out. And so, of course, I want everybody to be in there. I want them to do what is best for them, but I truly hope that, we don't start seeing a mass exodus of whiskey producers as well, especially ones that have been around for decades at this point. Tully also wanted me to bring up a couple of different things. I want to get to the bourbon glasses here in a moment. He asked this really interesting question about whiskey themed artists that I like, or people that I know of at least, who make whiskey make art about whiskey. And I don't really know too many of them, but there is one person that I will give a shout out to, whom has worked and been fortunate enough recently to work in like bourbon adjacent fields recently, and is making their name. I mean, they're doing really, really incredible work and being recognized for how talented they are as an artist. And they did the poster design, which I think is getting translated into the bottle design as well for the Derby, the Kentucky Derby. Woodford is their bourbon of sponsorship. It's the official bourbon of the Kentucky Derby, or whatever they say. Wiley Caudill, whom I went to college with actually a few moons ago. They did this beautiful piece for the Derby. It's the official art, and I'll put it in the Twitch chat. I'll put an image of it up on screen as well for those of you who are watching the video version. But I definitely encourage you to go and check out this piece of art. It's just beautiful. I mean, they've been doing great stuff for many years. And it was such a treat when we were in college, and we'd walk to class, and all of a sudden there was this new chalk art that Wiley had done overnight on campus. It was just awesome. It was so cool. So some just incredible stuff there. In my asking for topics and things to talk about on this week's episode, Darren Wright asked, so hypothetical idea, Wild Turkey doesn't exist anymore. What are your new go-to available bourbons as based on today's current market? So it's no secret, of course, that Turkey 101 is basically my go-to bourbon. I mean, I always have a bottle of it around. It's the cocktail bourbon of choice for me as well. If I'm just looking for something to pour after a long day, it's the first thing I grab before maybe moving on to something higher proof. But in this scenario, Turkey 101's gone. It's history. It's done. Or maybe it never existed in the first place. I don't know. But new go-to available bourbons in the case that it's just gone. Elijah Craig Small Batch, would definitely be one. Maker's Mark cast strength. For looking at like a mid higher proof, I think Maker's cast strength, even though it's not a rye bourbon like Rare Breed is, I still think it, scratches some of that itch as well. Anything New Riff, anything from Wilderness Trail as well. Any of the available, not the basic, like whatever it is, Old Number 8 benchmark, the small batch, top floor, single barrel, bonded and full proof. That in and of itself, those 5 products are so well rounded, and it's such a great way to kind of kick off your understanding of how bourbon operates in different settings, and just it's a good education on different types of bourbon as well. Oh, I missed a spot in my hair. Is that what that's been this whole time? Cool. I'll flatten that down with the glasses. Tully also says Old Forester 1920 or Four Roses Small Batch Select would be my go-to. Four Roses Small Batch Select, absolutely. But Four Roses Small Batch Select is already in my it's one of my bar cart bourbons, as it were. It's always going to have a space. Jared Kwan asked, if you were offered a sourced 6-year bourbon, rank the dominant locations it could be sourced from: MGP, Barton, Bardstown, Wilderness Trail, Green River, etc. Big 6 are eliminated. Based on these, I would say my number one is a tie between MGP and Bardstown Bourbon Company. I don't think that's not like a hot take. I don't feel like. I think that people are really catching on to how solid Bardstown Bourbon Company is, whether it's their sourced product or not. I mean, they're doing really, really incredible things. They're making absolutely incredible product. Second out of these, I've never had, because I'll tell you what, Barton is probably closer to the end of the list because they can be really hit or miss. And it's not that I don't love the ones that are really good, but I've noticed recently that they are not they're not as good as they can be, I feel like. And that's a shame. That's a shame. Still good, just not great. I'd say after my tied for first spots, Wilderness Trail is probably next. I mean, I've never been disappointed with sourced Wilderness Trail bourbon. And then I think Green River in that next slot. And again, that's not like I dislike. I mean, that's the thing. All 5 of these options are just awesome. I really, really love all of them. It's just, preference wise, I suppose. But anyway, that was a good question. I appreciate that. So getting back to what Tully was asking earlier about favorite glasses and what I typically am reaching for, I think it's safe to say that we can go ahead and name and take it, move on from the Glencairn. And this is an old bourbon drinking. This is my bourbon drinking glass, Glencairn, which we did in what year did we do that? 2019, 2020? Can't remember exactly. But we did that through, maybe it was 2021. I don't remember. But we did it through Whiskey Ambitions, Chad and Sarah's website. And I mean, I would like to do another run of Glens eventually because they're so ubiquitous with drinking bourbon. And it just makes sense almost to drink bourbon out of them. It's just like unless you're making a cocktail, I feel like it's just like, yeah, I'm going to drink out of that one. Like, it looks cool. It fits nice in your hand. And it gets the job done. It really does when you're trying to taste something. So, moving on. This is one that is, it's technically, I believe, a rocks glass. Ignore the Kentucky Owl logo on it. You don't need to know why. Definitely didn't swipe these from Dixon Deadman a few years ago. But they're technically, I think, a rocks glass. But they're more like, they're taller. They're skinnier and they're taller. And I think that when I'm not going for like the Glencairn experience, or I don't want to drink out of a Glencairn, but I still want something similar to that experience. I'm going with this type of rocks glass. Still a kind of a full experience with tasting and drinking bourbon, but not quite as, doesn't have that whole like experience of like it's being swirled around a bowled glass and the aromatics. It's just like I know what I'm drinking. Like, I'll typically drink Turkey 101 out of these instead of my Glencairn, because I'm not always trying to taste Turkey 101. Sometimes I'm just trying to drink it. But I do like that added little experience of like, the bourbon tasting process, I suppose. So, then, gosh, I'm really realizing how many of these I have acquired over the years in one way or another. Anyway, this is kind of a like tulip glass, but it's more of like a bulb than it is anything. It's shaped kind of like a whiskey barrel, honestly. But I've tasted out of these kinds of glasses for so many years. And notably as well, when I was drinking out of them with, again, Dixon Deadman, they were stemmed. This is like kind of like the stemless version of those glasses. If you ever did a tasting with Dixon when he was still doing them at the Beaumont Inn in Harrodsburg, Kentucky, there were these tulipy looking glasses with a stem on them. Coming back around to the somewhat. This is, I feel like, a cousin to the Glencairn, honestly. The Kenzie glass. This one is from my buddy. It's got his logo on it for the igloo, which is what he calls his house. Masik, whose podcast I did a few weeks back, Journey Drinkers, which was a great time. If you haven't listened to it, go and check that out. I love these glasses. I think that they have a little bit less of like an ethanol experience when you're drinking them, kind of in the same way that something like the Norland does. Not that the Norland, I'll talk about the Norland in a second. But the Norland, it just feels like you're drinking more of the actual spirit than you are the alcohol that is in it. So yeah, this is kind of one of my first alternatives to the Glencairn. And then last but not least, I talked about this particular tulip glass earlier when I was talking about drinking mead. I got this from a tour at Maker's Mark. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. But this is like really feeling like I'm fancy drinking the expensive stuff out of a whiskey glass. This is when I was ringing in the new year into 2024. This is what I was drinking out of. Just because it felt fancy, it felt different, it felt nice. There's two others that I want to mention that I didn't bring in with me. One, because I don't know where one of them is, and the other one I just didn't have the hands for. I didn't have the hands for my Noser from Brewmate, which is my, like, it's kind of my utility drinking cup vessel. If you've never seen them before, go look them up. It's NOSR from Brewmate, BRUMATE. I really like it. It's not like super intimidating, I guess, from a like, if you're like you're trying not to show off. I don't know. But it's just nice, and it's like I'm taking a pour to bed as I'm winding down. I'll typically put whatever I'm drinking in the Noser too, because I don't want to knock a glass off a bed. You kidding me? Off my nightstand? No, I'm not about to do that. And then one that's I've kind of fallen out of favor with over the years is the Norlin glass. Again, it's not like a bad experience with drinking whiskey, but it just is so strange that it's used to eliminate the ethanol from the drinking of the whiskey, that I don't care for that. I don't want that. I want to be able to experience it as a whole, not as like, what am I missing here? And that's kind of what I get with the Norlin these days. But anyway, the only reason I like the Norlin is my hand on glass doesn't warm up the whiskey since it's double walled. That is a good point. That is a good point. Yeah, you're not like actually interacting with the whiskey too much. I had not considered that, Tully. Thank you for that. Like I said, I just don't know where my Norlins are either right now, or I would have grabbed one. Because that's one of those that once I stopped really liking drinking whiskey out of them, I moved on. I just didn't want to. I wanted to drink out of a Glencairn or something different. So anyway, I do have a review lined up. Somehow, again, this is one of those that I have overlooked for years and have never actually reviewed, but it has always been something that has at least kind of been in the background of my bourbon collection, my bourbon cabinet, and one that I have, people still fawn over. And that's Woodford Reserve Double Oak, 90.4 proof, just like every other Woodford Reserve product. Still, I believe about $40 as well. Let me double check on that as well. But 45 is what I'm kind of seeing. I was seeing other places with it for like $75, $80. But just the regular double oaked, I believe, is about 45 these days. So you know, if you can find it, hopefully you're finding it at retail. This is definitely not one of those that I feel like people should overpay for. I do definitely think that it was a bourbon that introduced people to, you know, the idea of finishing. I mean, it is very much like the first encounter that you would have with a finishing process, the double oaking. And so it's going to be a darker color. This is quite a bit darker. I'm not even sure what the age is on Woodford Double Oaked. I imagine it's got to be closer to 6 or 7 years old. Oh no, GearPatrol.com says it's speculated that the whiskey spends 6 years in the first barrel and another year maturing in the second. So there you go. I wasn't too far off. All right. Let's get into it. So much toffee, so much chocolate. Still getting that like banana thing going that I was talking about not too long ago with Brown-Forman products. But it's a little bit more muted because of how intense the barrel note is with this. And this is an older bottle too. I've had this one open for a little while. It's such a different animal from your standard Woodford Reserve bourbon, which is one of those that a lot of people start out with, and you know they're trying to get into some of the fancier bourbons. They're trying to get into something that's a little bit more expensive, and that's typically going to be what you find people reaching for. And you know, I'm not saying that regular Woodford Reserve is bad by any means. I went through that same process with it as well. I just I've moved on from it since then. But Double Oaked is definitely one of those where I come back to it and I'm like, oh, I remember why this was something special back in the day, because it's still something special. It's still a remarkable Double Oaked bourbon. Caramel, spices, a little bit of bubblegum. What's the thing that people say about, or that Woodford says there are 200 individual tasting notes that are on Woodford Reserve bourbon? Now, I don't know about that. I don't even know if I could give you 200 tasting notes. Honeysuckle, a little melony as well. But overall, I mean, the dark, rich, oaky notes are what's coming through on the nose. So, cheers, everybody. What's so striking to me about Woodford Reserve Double Oaked, even at 90.4 proof and an assumed 6 to 7 years old, there are times when drinking this feels more like you are drinking a 9-year-old bourbon. It is so robust. It's so it blossoms with flavor. I don't know a better way to describe it. It blossoms with flavor. It really, really does. It's not a super big or long finish, but from the front to middle part of the palate, it's huge. It's every bit of a $45 bourbon as well. Second sip, kind of eased into it. Caramel is more prevalent. The vanilla, oh, dude, you know what? Brain blast. I gotta take the Hershey's marshmallow tart and give it the pairing treatment with the Woodford Double Oak. That is nice. That doesn't transform it in the way that the small batch select did earlier, but it does definitely enhance those sweet flavors. That's nice. I like that. Anyway, moving on. Anyway, I think I've spent at least enough time with this. Maybe I'll give it another sip just to be sure. But I'm going to move into actually reviewing this one with our system of nose, palate, finish, and price. Each category is out of 5. Final score is out of 20. This is how we've been reviewing bourbon on the podcast since like the first month of the show back in 2017. So, nose. Again, for it being slightly on the younger side, not super young, but if it is 6 to 7 years old, it's very complex. It's got a lot going on with it. Nose is a 3.5 for me. And I'll be honest with you, the palate is too. They're very even. They're very, very similar to each other. Just a very consistent experience between nose and palate. Equally as sweet, equally as bold. Depth of flavor is very interesting. I would like, and this is my palate, a little bit more spice to be on there. But still, I like it. Finish is the only part that's truly lacking for me. It drops off quite a bit by the time it gets around to the finish. I am going to give it a 2.5. It's good, not great. It's not even that it goes watery. It's just there's not much happening. It just kind of dissipates, just kind of. There are better parts of this bourbon than the finish. The price at $45, it is comparable to things like Maker's Cast Strength. Used to be the price of Rare Breed. RIP to that affordability. That's gone up to like what, $60 now? Can't remember. But regardless, I mean, if you're looking for something that is going to be kind of a crowd pleaser and people are going to find complexity and a different experience in without blowing out anybody's palate or going too far with proof, $45 is very approachable. And yet again, well, you know what? It's a 4. It's a good price for it. I mean, I think if you find it at that price, there's nothing wrong with picking it up. Only thing I want more of on it is proof and the finish. Otherwise, very, very solid bourbon. That gives me a total score of 13.5 out of 20. Unless I've done the math wrong. But I'm pretty sure it's a 13.5. It's a recommendation for sure. I know that's nothing new. I know that this definitely gets some notoriety from people, but I do quite like it. All right, well, that brings us to our next segment of the show, which is Barrel Rings. It's the part of the show that you can become a part of by texting or calling the phone number 859-428-8253. 859-428-8253. Text or call. We will read it out or listen to it here on the show. I've one of these I'm gonna actually, you know what? I'm gonna save both of the texts that we got this week until Eric comes back next week because they're directed at him or at least for him. So we'll do that. We'll do those next week. But we got a couple, 3 voicemails we're going to listen to. And the first one this week comes from Jared.
Hey, what's up, guys? Jared here. Just getting out of my COVID isolation period. It took 4 years. 4 years COVID finally got me. But don't worry, this could not have been more of a mild thing. I've had common colds that slapped the crap out of this. But this isolation period has been a huge logistical drag in this household. I've not been able to do all the things I normally do. Really only get to leave my room to get the kids, on and off school buses and cook dinner for everybody. But anyways, I digress. I got a question for the Chads, aka the replacement hosts. I was wondering if either of you watched the movie The Replacements to get ready for this appearance. And if you did, was there a character you guys most identified with? Shane Falco, Clifford Franklin, Annabelle. Curious how that shakes out. Otherwise, I hope there's not too much prancing going on. I'm sure there's some. It's Friday. Who doesn't love a little prance on a Friday? I hope you're being relatively nice to Eric. We're beefing right now, so don't be too nice to him. Give it to him a little bit. But otherwise, it's nice to have My Daily Bourbon actually on the episode instead of just being mentioned, because I sent him a message a while back asking about those Deadpool Blanton's picks, and he never wrote me back, and it did hurt a little bit inside. More sensitive than I let on. So, whatever. Forgive and forget. Hope everything goes well with the appearance. And hope it's good. Looking forward to Eric getting back so I can continue to give him crap and get him all riled up. Seems to be fun. So with that, talk to everybody later.
A voicemail for an alternate reality in which the Chads actually did make an appearance on this week's episode, but that was quite funny. Eric got his wish. There was no prancing. No prancing was done on this week's episode. I mean, by default, of course, because they weren't here. But still, I didn't prance. There was no prancing to be had. This one, I believe, is a new call-in. So we've, I don't know. Well, maybe we can figure this out together.
Hey guys, Romeo McFlourish here. Quite the voicemail greeting, I must say. Welcome to March. Not sure about you guys, but February just seemed to drag on a little longer this year than years previous. I don't know. Just seems that way. Anyways, thought I'd ask a question for you guys. We all have bourbon collections, some larger than others. But mine's usually just a backlog of stuff I haven't gotten to that I want to drink. But I do have a couple bottles that I don't ever plan on opening. Dip my own at Maker's Mark, Michter's bottle that I had my name printed on and such. So I wanted to see if you guys have any of those type of bottles in your collections that you just will never open. You'll hang on forever, put it on a shelf as a showpiece. And thanks guys. Have a good one. Well, see you later.
All right, Romeo McFlourish. The funny thing is, I know that voice. I cannot tell you who. I mean, maybe. Hey, look, Romeo. Thanks for calling. Bottles that I will never open, though. I have bottles that I don't know when I'm going to open. Not that I won't, but I just am not sure when it's actually going to happen. Okay, there's three that really come to mind first. The first two actually hold the same purpose. They're both Wild Turkey bottles. One is Wild Turkey 101, signed by Jimmy Russell. And the second is a Russell's 10-year, signed by both Jimmy and Eddie. Right. So I hate to be morbid about this, but the general consensus is that Jimmy is not going to be around too much longer, right? So the idea that I had with my dad was that when Jimmy does pass, he and I will open the Jimmy bottle, that the Jimmy Turkey 101 bottle, and that will be finished in his honor. The other one, the Russells, because it's both Russells, half for Jimmy, half for Eddie, or all for Eddie. I don't know. But then the other one is actually a fairly recent acquisition. There we go. A fairly recent acquisition. It was the final bottle that I was able to find with my 30th birthday dated on it. It was a Jack Daniel's single barrel proof that was dumped on my 30th birthday, and I had drank through a couple of them. I closed out 2023, excuse me, which was the year that I turned 30, by killing one of them. And then I found this last one, and I'm not sure when I will open it. Probably going to be a while before that happens. But it's a special one that I'm holding on to. Otherwise, when bottles just get opened around here, I mean, everything can be replaced eventually. It's just whiskey, man. So, I appreciate the memory of it more than I do holding on to the bottle. So that's where that stands. All right, one more voicemail from our dear friend Bill Robarge.
What's up, boys? Listening to that intro, there really is a fourth person, right? Like, it's me and Jared, the J&B show, with the Perry and Eric, or the P&E show. Peonies. That's a funny word. Anyway, I hope y'all are doing good. I don't really have a ton today to talk about. I am just over here living my best life, trying to get my golf in pretty soon. But hey, I did come across this interesting news story that gas pumps in New Zealand actually weren't working yesterday, which was Leap Day for all of you keeping track at home, because the credit card machines were not programmed to accept February 29th as a valid date. That is pretty damn hilarious. That's some Y2K nonsense right there, if you ask me. Anyways, so Perry, I hear you're into meads now, right? I've been listening to the episodes, trying to keep up. And let me tell you a little something, man. That is a slippery slope to go down, my friend. Once you start getting into craft meads and all the different variations of what meads are, and the high proof meads, and when I say high proof, I'm talking like 14, 15, 16%. Amazing. So, as you may or may not be aware, I will be in Kentucky at some point this month, now that we're officially in March. So maybe I'll bring a mead and maybe use that as the carrot to get you to come and hang out with me.
Oh, geez.
We'll see. We'll see how that goes. All right, I'm out of here. You guys have fun. Eric, I hope you're hearing this. I hope Eric did a barrel rings since he's not on the show. And if he didn't, missed opportunity, my friend. Missed opportunity. All right, I'm out of here. Peace out. Pizza Hut. Yep, that sounds about right.
It was nice to hear Pizza Hut from him too. That is crazy though, that those pumps just did not work in New Zealand. I mean, I don't like, so much of that is it's I just feel like that's something he's right. That is Y2K nonsense. Like, it should be automated by now. I don't know. The mead thing. Bill, I was going to hang out with you anyway, of course. But the mead thing. I'm into the high proof stuff, my dude. I'm here for it. I'm down. I'm more than happy to enjoy some high proof meads with you. This Danks Miad, Riba Mod, Miad, I don't know, whatever, that I've been enjoying. Like I said earlier, it's 19%. 38 proof wine. Happy about that. All right. I don't have any high proof hot takes this week because I haven't gotten riled up the way that I normally do when I'm around Eric. He usually brings it out of me, you know. But I will talk about tips and bits this week, the segment of the show where we recommend things for you to watch, to listen to read, just to enjoy that we have been getting into over just recently. And I'll do a follow-up from last week's episode, and that is Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I finally got around to completing the Netflix adaptation of it. And it's fine. It's fine. It's not great. I wasn't blown away by it. I was disappointed more than anything, primarily because of the acting and also because of some of the weird choices that they made to deviate from the original series. Not that they were bad necessarily, not that they didn't still flow with the storyline that they were telling in this adaptation, but it just was the original holds such a special place in my heart, and as soon as I finished the Netflix adaptation, I was like, you know what, let's go back and watch the animated. So watching through the animated series again, it's been a while since I've done that. I started to do so and I got distracted recently, so going back and knocking that out. Now, listen to earlier this week the newest, it's not entirely new, but newest album from one Chris Stapleton of Traveler Whiskey fame or infamy, depending on how you view it. The album Higher, which is interesting. It's not my favorite. It's not my favorite Chris Stapleton album, I will say. But it's good. It is good. I just, it's not first couple of albums, Chris Stapleton. Good. Those were revolutionary. Anyway, that does it for this week. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me, whether you're watching on Twitch, whether you're viewing the YouTube version, or you're just listening to a regular old audio version, just like we've been doing for 7 years. It's just nice. Thank you for being here. If you want to follow up with us, you can do so by heading to social media and checking us out at My Bourbon Pod, or Eric, he is at Whiskey Mutant. If you want to support the show, you can head to patreon.com/MyBourbonPodcast for as little as $1 a month. For as little as $5 a month, there's bonus content that's over there. You can leave us a 5-star rating and review by heading to your podcast app of choice. You can also check out all of our apparel and merchandise at bourbonshop.threadless.com. New stuff going up over there from time to time. I wouldn't say all the time, but from time to time. You can send us an email to thisismybourbonshop@gmail.com if you have questions or comments. We'd be happy to see those. Read them out here on the show. Oh, and if you leave a review, by the way, we will also read that out on the show. Yeah, we got a new one, but I wanted to wait until Eric was back next week to do that. If you want to send us samples or mail or any kind of just little pieces of whatever, we have a P.O. Box. It's P.O. Box 22609, Lexington, Kentucky 40522. We appreciate everybody who sends samples over there. They're just, just whatever. I don't know. We've only gotten samples so far. So that's about it. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Until then, though, I'm Perry, and this is my Bourbon Podcast.